Thanks to the last Arrow sale, I generally pick up a lot of the £5 titles. I picked up Terror in a Texas Town, one I've looked at a few times and just never quite pulled the trigger. I'm so glad I picked this one up. I love this one almost immediately. It's an 80-minute Western noir movie that just plays exceedingly well. Now, for these type of movies, it's full of a lot of tropes and typical scenes that you would expect in these kind of films, and it plays into them a lot, but it never matters because of the strength of the characters that we have here, the endearing factor of them, the hatred of the antagonist, the sheer love I had for the protagonist. I was on board with this movie and I loved it because of that, because it's such an oddball of a Western as well. At the start of this, we're introduced to a group of people who are being attacked and driven out of their homes by this greedy landowner who's wanting to make a play for their land because there's oil underneath. This is McNeil. He hires this bad guy, Johnny, to come in and just kind of kill people, push people about, really lean on them heavily and just intimidate these people. We get this Swedish immigrant, Hansen, who owns his land, who's wanting to stand up for what he owns, and he ultimately is killed as a warning to everybody else not to stand up to McNeil. Now, we are introduced straight away to George Hansen, who is the son who's just happened to turn up to see his father to start on the farm. He's been working on ships for a while, and he discovers his father's dead and goes looking to figure out what happened, why they try to keep the land from them, and how he is going to rectify the situation. And it plays out kind of typically, but it has such wonderful scenes in it as well. It has this moment where George arrives in town and Johnny, the bad guy, knows who he is, but sits down and has a conversation and kind of tells him like some advice of what to do. Go to the sheriff, do this, do that, knowing full well that he's the one that killed his father. You get this lovely idea of these farmers, this family, the Hansens, who aren't really wielders of weapons, but for some reason they do have this harpoon, a kind of holdover from the days where they were whaling, and that's the kind of thing, the kind of symbol of the movie. Hansen walking down the street carrying this harpoon, and it's just such a wonderful character. This George is so steadfast in the way that he treats everything. He's so tolerant of some of these people who are just bullies, picking on some people and people round about who are willing to help George. And it, like I said, it doesn't offer any surprises in the story. It goes from A to B rather methodically. There is one nice twist where the movie opens with George kind of walking down the main street with a group of people behind him carrying this harpoon, who meets up with Johnny, who we don't know anything about at the time, and they have this conversation where George seems to back down, and then it goes back and tells the story of how it leads up to there, and it's so wonderfully played out. I mean, you get to that ending again and it's a different angle, and we've got so much more on top of it all with the relationships of the characters, what they are fighting for or against. It leads to such a terrific finale. Terror in a Texas Town was utterly wonderful. I enjoyed everything about it. I loved the characters, the conversations, the relationships. If there was anything I had to pick on, it was McNeil's constant eating, which just grated on me, but that's something that's a personal kind of bugbear anyway. I loved this movie. I loved it for its effort, its excitement, the way it deals in with its characters, the choice of shots and the way it's directed, the short run time, the way it follows all these typical tropes but doesn't lean into them so much that it overrides the movie. It still has its own identity. Terror in a Texas Town, utterly wonderful, highly recommended, and I would love to know your thoughts. If you've seen it, let me know in the comment box below, and I'll see you next time on Man v Film.